Now we're live. Welcome to RetireJapan TV, the show where we talk about personal finance, investing, retirement, life in Japan, and random nonsense that amuses us. welcome to our holiday edition. Daniel's very good. Like, I make him wear the hat. He doesn't like the hat, but you know, he plays along because he's a good sport. So
had to go up and drag it out of the box.
Fantastic. How are you doing, Daniel, apart from being forced to wear the hat?
I was okay. I asked my wife, I was like, yeah, how does this look? She says, oh, yeah, it looks good. Yeah, oh, thank you.
You've got the beard for it.
Yeah, and then she continued with, yeah, like when you put a little hat on a toddler and their round face is like, okay, great, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, I've got the matching beard now. Sorry if you're listening, you can't see the wonderful display.
Yeah, so we're here. It's the end of the year. It's our December RetireJapan TV. Bit of a tradition. We wear the hat. It's the third time round. I can't believe it's season 3 already.
Yeah,
we've been doing this for 3 years, which is amazing because apparently most podcasts don't get past like 3 episodes. So
yeah, right.
The fact
it doesn't
that
feel like that long, though, does it?
No. Well, I think it's because it's so fun, at least for me. I don't know if you're having fun, but yeah, I just enjoy it. So
good, and I hope the listeners do too.
Yes. Well, today, actually, for a change, we've actually got some financial content. It's not all like random weird stories and personal anecdotes today. We've actually got some meaty content for everyone about NISA,
positive stuff,
about iDeCo, about investing. It's all very exciting. And yeah, I think we're going to start off with NISA, aren't we?
Yeah, a lot of good news, isn't there? Oh, actually, with NISA. Oh, yeah, so I haven't been keeping up, but last year, several years, they do changes, don't they? And last year was a big change, and all the
huge
limits,
change.
Good changes. And so obviously this year I'm expecting the same thing again. We're going to have to relearn what all the new rules are and stuff. So could you fill us in on what they all are?
Yeah, so yep, no changes. I think they knocked themselves out last year with the new unexpected NISA, because actually this year was supposed to be Shin NISA, and they cancelled it, and it became the Atarashi NISA. So I think they're tired. They're done. But NISA's finished. It's not going to change for a long time, I'm guessing.
So I genuinely haven't looked at any NISA news. So there's absolutely nothing changing, nothing at all with NISA.
No, I don't imagine it will. The only change I could imagine is possibly them increasing the lifetime contribution allowance, or hopefully getting rid of it altogether, so that we just have an annual contribution, and then that's tax-free for as long as you like, which is actually how the UK does it. So, and NISA is supposedly, copied from the UK. That's why it's called a NISA. It's a Nippon ISA. But they don't like giving people huge tax breaks here. So we do still have that lifetime limit, but no one's going to fill it up until 5 years from 2029, I guess. So until then, it would make no difference whether there was a lifetime limit or not. It's just 2029. Anyone who can max out the NISA, that's when they're going to run into that lifetime limit.
Yeah. It's almost as if they've taken something from another country, but just tweaked it a tiny bit. So it's not quite the same, isn't it?
What, Japan? Really?
Yeah.
Normally they make things better. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, still good stuff.
Did you manage to fill your NISA this year?
No, because I realized I was quite stupid. We talk about it here and how good it is and all the big changes. And it was only until halfway through the year when I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can have a tsumitate as well as the regular one at the same time. And so, yeah, halfway through the year, I started using my tsumitate NISA.
My head's in my hands for anyone listening to this. Oh, dear. And you didn't bother doing the top-up thing?
No, I try to keep it simple. Just set it up and like, okay, as long as I'm doing it like from July or whatever. Because as we often say, as long as you're doing something, it's better than nothing. So yeah, now it's on sort of autopilot. It's good.
And particularly that now that NISA has this lifetime allowance thing, it's not that big a deal if you start a few months late. All it means is it's going to take you a few more months to fill the NISA if you're maxing it out. And if you're not maxing it out, then it doesn't matter because you can just keep paying into the NISA until it's full anyway. So, yeah, I frequently advise people not to bother using the bonus feature to try and, you know, cram the NISA as full as possible if they missed a few months, or, you know, just keep doing the regular monthly payment and it'll work out in the end, I think.
Yeah.
Of course, I was able to finish the NISA because I set up my Sumitate NISA payments in like October of 2023. But
oh wow.
But yeah, so it's full. The only reason I was able to fill it though is because I was selling stuff from my taxable accounts and then buying stuff in NISA. Because of course now that I'm, you know, a lazy layabout, as my wife would put it, I don't have much of an income anymore. So I'm not funding NISA from new money. I'm just moving my investments that are in the taxable account, selling them, paying tax on the capital gains, and then buying stuff in NISA for the future.
Oh, yes. So I did that with my wife's account this year, but not enough to go over the limit. So yeah, she wouldn't have to declare any tax on it, I think. One thing I do like is, I guess all the providers do this, but in my SBI account, it's already got the limits there for 2025, which is really good, because without that, you think, you know, do I need to do something to, like, you know, continue in 2025? But no, it's already showing, like, you know, you'll have this limit. So yeah,
that's a really good point. So yeah, if your monthly payments are set up, you don't have to do anything going forward. They're just going to continue until you cancel them, or there's no money in the account that they draw from, or something like that. But you don't have to renew it every year or anything like that.
I did want to ask, actually. So I've got this thing set up. What happens if I don't have enough money, like the cash part of my SBI account for the Tsumitate to pull out the monthly payment from? Do I get like some warning or something, or told off?
Yeah, they'll come round and be like, "Hey."
Well, like, is there some like credit black mark against me?
No, I think the payment will fail. And I think they'll probably just try again the following month, and if that fails, then it might be cancelled altogether. So you do need to keep a rough eye on it, just to make sure that the payments are coming out every month. But actually, I noticed I missed an iDeCo payment this month.
Oh, how did you do that? Because it's automatic.
So I guess because it comes out of my bank account, and, you know, by chance that day it didn't quite have enough money in it. So the payment failed. I didn't notice, and then the next one went through normally. So yeah, you do need to keep an eye on your accounts, make sure they're topped up enough to meet those monthly deductions or whatever. Okay,
but nothing bad happened. It's not like missing a mortgage payment or credit card.
No.
They'll phone you in an hour.
My iDeCo tax benefit is slightly reduced, and there's a bit less money in the account because I missed a month. And you can't make up months on iDeCo.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no big deal. It's fine.
Okay, yeah. So.
Oh, speaking of iDeCo, we're going to talk about iDeCo later, actually. But I did want to, now that we're on the topic, just mention that there's something that you need to do with iDeCo to set it up that no one tells you about, but is actually quite important. That sounds like a YouTube short or something, doesn't it? That one thing that no one tells you about iDeCo. But yeah, so apparently iDeCo is treated differently than, for example, NISA or a bank account or a taxable broker account in terms of inheritance. So everything else is just dealt with according to your will. But iDeCo isn't. So for iDeCo, you actually have to, well, you don't have to, but it makes things much easier, set up a beneficiary. So you need to go in and register who's going to get it if you should die. And it's not, you'd think they do this at the beginning when you set the account up, but they don't. So it's basically not set as a default unless you actually contact them. And I just got the forms for Rakuten today. So on Rakuten, there's not even a button to get it. You have to message them. on the thing or call them up. Yeah, so I messaged them on the chat, you know, the live chat, and I was like, yeah, I want this. It's actually called so it's the Shibo Ichijikin Uketori nin Shitesho.
Here we go. Yes, I'm just looking at my account now. Yeah.
Have you got one? So on SBI, you can actually request the paperwork with a button online. There's a button that says, please send me the paperwork for this. We got it for my wife the other day. We filled in the form, sent it in. So eventually it's going to show up in there as, you know, who's registered as this. But apparently, if you don't designate someone on here, then it will get sorted out according to your will. It just takes ages. Like it can take months or years to sort it out. Whereas if you've got this thing actually set up properly, you've designated one or more people to get your account, then as soon as, you know, your death certificate and stuff is processed, they'd be sent the money. So it's definitely worth taking the 10-15 minutes it takes to sort this out. Okay,
so I'm looking at my SBI now, and I can't actually edit it, but I can see it, and it's already filled in. Uketori hito is kakutei something shutsu nenkin ho ni nanto kameru goizoku. So the sort of what is it? The descendant, I suppose. Or the,
so that is basically the default, which is the account will be dealt with according to the defined contribution law.
Right. What's wrong with that?
It takes forever.
So
if you register someone, you register their name, their address, their phone number. As soon as the broker gets the paperwork that says that you died, they would contact that person and send them the money immediately. But this way, if you don't have it set up, it takes forever, apparently.
Like weeks, months, years?
Months, years.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Not fun. So
yeah, but if you specify a single person, let's say I specify my wife, and then both of us get hit by a bus or whatever, then that makes it complicated, doesn't it? She can't get it. What happens?
I'm guessing it would pass through.
Yeah.
So she'd get it, and then it would be dealt with as part of her estate.
Right.
Possibly.
Okay. Which maybe is still faster than the thing that you mentioned. It takes a long time.
Probably.
Okay. Well, it looks like I can't change it online. So yeah, probably SBI is the same way. You have to request it from somebody.
Well, yeah, SBI. Well, like I did it last week. There's a button you can click to request documents. And and you can actually do that online. But Rakuten doesn't even have that. You have to contact Rakuten. But yeah, so Jason, fantastic. Yes, I'm definitely gonna make a video about this. Jason suggested making a video about this iDeCo beneficiary thing. I think it's a great idea. I only found out about it because it came up on Reddit. So the Japan Finance subreddit, which is a really useful resource, they were talking about it, and I was like, "What? Really?" Because I'd never heard of it, and I'd never heard anyone mention it. And yeah, I did some digging, and it is a thing. So if you have an iDeCo account, if it's got any kind of money in it, if you have a family, it's probably worth doing this. And it doesn't take very long. I mean, the form is literally that. It's just this bit. You just have to fill this bit in. So. It's going to take 2 minutes to fill in. Okay, and you even get a little stamped self-addressed envelope to send it back in. So it's pretty painless, really. You just need to know about it, which seems a bit dodgy, really.
Yeah. I'm a little bit wary of filling in the paperwork from iDeCo because when I set it up, I just used my first name and my last name, and they accepted it. That was fine. But services seem to be getting more and more strict about middle name, and if your middle name is not on there, then you're effectively not the same person. So now I'm worried if I fill a form and I have to send in like my copy of my driving license or whatever, they're going to say, "Oh, you're not the same person. This is
you need to update it.
Be complicated." Blah blah blah.
So I had this issue with Rakuten this year, I think. So when I open my Rakuten account, I have 2 surnames.
Of course, yeah. Who doesn't?
So, of course I do, yeah, of course. But when I opened my Rakuten account, they weren't as strict with stuff. So I opened it using my first name and my first surname, not the other one. But once my number came in, and my number is strictly based on your passport, then it didn't match. And then Rakuten, I think this year, did this thing where they were like, right, we want everyone's residence details. So we want everyone's visa details. You got to do this process. And if you don't, we'll freeze your account. And I'd ignored them up until that point when they said, we'll freeze your account. And I was like, I don't want them to freeze my account. So I sent in the paperwork and I was like, oh God, this is going to ruin everything. Because like my bank was the old thing too. So it wouldn't match anymore. But it was okay. So basically they registered the new information kind of underneath the account name and stuff. So it didn't break anything.
Oh, okay.
So you might be okay.
Yeah, I'll have to do it at some point.
And SBI is going to ask for your, you know, my number card at some point. So
I don't have one of those yet. I'm holding out.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be this year though, isn't it? With the health card.
Well, it's the only option for health cards now.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see that?
Unless you don't want health. Yeah, you got to get my number card.
Well, that's I mean, it's not quite true because if you don't have a health my number card, they'll send you a paper certificate, so you're still covered.
Oh, okay.
So anyone who's being stubborn about this, anyone who doesn't have a my number card or doesn't want to register it for health insurance purposes, they will send you a letter that says this person has health insurance. So you can still get around it.
Okay, that's good to know.
I'm guessing this is for the quite large number of elderly people who are basically not going to get a my number card.
Yeah,
so they need something. It reminds me actually. So there's the clinic I go to for injuries. I'm there all the time. The reason, because normally seikei take forever, right? I don't know if you've been to a seikei, but normally, my experience, I've been to about 12 looking for a good one. It normally takes 2, 3, 4 hours to get seen by a doctor at a seikei. But this one, they've got online booking and they see you at the time you book. And I talked to my wife and she was like, the reason they see you and doesn't take forever is because it's only online. And so old people can't use it. They're not visiting this hospital. It's a sports focused one. So it's everyone's like in school or like, So, so I'm guessing that the elderly population don't have my number cards. Many of them.
I would think so too. Yeah. Certainly the two in our family do not. And they don't have internet. Well, they do, but they don't realize it.
Right. And my number is a pain. It's not easy. It takes me a while to do stuff because the process is not easy or instant or intuitive, right? So
yeah, I'm going to hold
out. Cool. All right, let's do some questions, I think. Is it just the one question? Okay, so we've got a question here from Jason. So iDeCo the question is, do you want to read the question, Daniel?
Yes. Actually, I'm interested in this on behalf of my son as well, who's going to start work soon, and I want him to get an iDeCo, but he's going to have the salary and the pension sorted out by the company, maybe. So Jason Smith says, when you reference iDeCo, Ben, are you referring to kojin kakutei kyosutsu, is that nenkin?
Yes.
Or kigyo kakutei kyosutsu nenkin? I asked my employer about getting this set up as part of payroll, and they indicated they don't support kojin kakutei kyosutsu. Is there a difference?
Yes. So iDeCo is the kojin one because it's the individual defined contribution pension. So the kojin gata kakutei kyosutsu nenkin. And there's a few different things that might be happening here. So the first one is that there's two ways to pay iDeCo in Japan. You can either have it deducted from your salary by your employer, This is the easy way, and it means your taxes are lowered instantly. But it's a pain if you change employers. Also, employers don't have to do that for you because it causes them, it makes work for them. So they can refuse to do that. They can't refuse to fill in the paperwork for you. They have to do that, but they can choose not to deduct it from your salary. At which point you have to go with the second option, which is to have it deducted from your bank account. Now, if you do it that way, it doesn't lower your taxes instantly, but instead, at the end of the year, you get a certificate from your iDeCo provider, and you hand that in as part of your year-end tax adjustment or your tax return, and then you get the tax break.
Hang on.
So in the end, it's the same.
Hand it into the finance department of your company, or actually to the tax
if they do your end of year tax adjustment, yeah, you'd give it to your company, just like any other kind of insurance or whatever.
So either way, you don't need to do the end of year tax form and give it directly to the tax return. You can still do it through the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just whether they take it out of your salary or not. They can choose if they want to do that for you. The other thing is that certain DC or DB pensions might restrict your ability to use iDeCo, and you'd have to talk to HR about whether that's the case. But if they don't, you can still do iDeCo. It's just that your company's not going to deduct it from your salary. Instead, you can just have it taken out of your bank account instead.
You said DC and DB. DC is direct contribution. What's DB?
DB. Defined, not direct. So it's defined contribution or defined benefit. So a defined benefit pension is the old school ones where you're promised a certain amount. They might say, oh, you'll get half your salary or you get 2/3 of your salary. And the company's responsible for coming up with that money.
Mm-hmm.
Defined contribution means that you or the company put in a certain amount of money and invest it, and you end up with whatever that ends up being. So defined benefit, there's a lot of risk for the company. Defined contribution, all the risks on the individual. So basically, companies have gotten rid of defined benefit pensions because they're too risky. So that's why we've had this huge move away from DB pensions to DC pensions instead.
Okay. Good.
Okay, we've got one quick follow-up comment that I'm going to refer to. So if it's taken from your bank account, you'll pay transfer fees? No, because it's a deduction from your bank account. It's not you sending the money. So
it's not a furikomi.
It's not a furikomi. It's a hikiotoshi. So the company is withdrawing the money from your bank account. That doesn't cost you anything. No worries. There are fees for iDeCo. You pay a small monthly fee, but it's like 60 yen or something. So nothing to really worry about. Much less than the tax savings for most people.
Yeah.
Woo!
Wow. We're 23 minutes in and I'm learning already.
We got totally sidetracked. We were supposed to be talking about NISA. So NISA, back to NISA. Yes. NISA is amazing. I think something like 1/4 of people in Japan have a NISA account. We were doing this last time, weren't we? Is it 1/4?
Yes, not necessarily everyone using it, putting investments in it, but they at least have opened it.
So at least in my experience, there are a huge number of people who opened a NISA account and never started using it. And there's even more people that maybe tried to open a NISA account and then kind of got stuck halfway through and didn't follow through enough. So for those people, 2025, let's actually make it the year where we start using the NISA account. You don't have to go all out. You certainly don't need to max it out. Just starting to, open the account, find some funds, start doing monthly orders on the funds. The minimum is 100 yen a month. I think anyone can afford that. And then you'll learn so much about the process and you'll really set yourself up for a better financial future. So use NISA. It's great. There's no drawbacks.
No drawbacks. Can I just play devil's advocate a bit there? So just last night, actually, on TV, one of several investment topics come up. It's the regular, chat program with the talento in the studio and blah, blah. And I've seen this more and more. Well, my friend pointed out, I said, there's a lot of investment stuff on TV recently.
Loads.
And it came up talking about NISA, and the announcer was saying, so who here, out of the talento is doing NISA? And one young guy said, yeah, I'm doing it. And the reaction amongst the others was, whoa, first of all, that's risky. And secondly, oh, moketeru, like, are you making a profit? So the reaction was, and that one lady then said, I'm not doing it because I don't want to lose my money. So you said there's no downsides to NISA, but according to that panel, like, oh, there is, you lose money.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ignorant reaction. And by ignorant, I'm not meaning it as a pejorative thing. I'm just saying it's people who don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't understood the concepts. They certainly haven't opened a NISA account and started using tiny amounts of money to kind of learn how it works. So that's what I'd say. Take a little bit of time, figure out how it works, put in a small amount of money that you don't care about, and see how it goes. And then over time, increase the amount you're investing.
Yes. Yeah.
And NISA is amazing because NISA is completely tax-free. So you can invest up to 18 million yen. It can grow as big as it wants to, and you'll never have to pay tax on that. You'll never have to declare tax on that. It's a great system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're saving for retirement, iDeCo is great because it lowers your taxes, but NISA is even better because it's completely flexible.
So one thing, again, on the same program, the lady who didn't want to invest, she said she knows another actress who does, and she's checking the charts all the time, watching the share price go up and down and blah, blah, blah. Or maybe some of us are, but you don't have to, and it's probably recommended not to. So it made it seem like either it's risky or you've got to pay attention all the time. It's something that you've got to devote a lot of time to, which obviously we know is not true. So it got me pretty frustrated, that. But I was thinking, also the young guy then came back and said, yeah, but the government is trying to encourage people to do it, and they wouldn't do that if it was really like a dodgy scheme. So he feels comfortable doing that. And whatever you say about the government, if they're encouraging a whole population to do something, and so far the media, I think, is covering it pretty well, then maybe it's not a bad thing.
I've seen a lot of news segments on it, and they were pretty positive and fairly solid, I thought, in terms of what the people were saying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole atmosphere around investing has completely changed over the last 5 or 6 years in Japan. Like before that, I used to teach a university class, and I'd ask my students, do you invest? Do your families invest? They were like, no, of course not. What are you talking about? But a few years ago, that completely changed. And then we started having students who are like, yes, I have a NISA account. Or yes, my family talk about stocks. And I think it's really positive because it's allowing people to take control, basically, of their financial lives and sort out their own future rather than hoping that, the government will take care of you through Nenkin, which is not going to happen, just for anyone listening. Like, you do not want to try and live on Nenkin.
Yeah. I think so you get a lot of freedom with NISA, I've noticed, compared to iDeCo. And so if you want to take on a lot of risk, you potentially can. You could get a really small stock and put it in your NISA, but it's not the kind of thing you could do by accident. You've got to really be trying hard to take on a lot of risk. So I was thinking one strategy, iDeCo is really conservative in that the list of things you're allowed to invest in iDeCo is very restricted, and they're all, like, I would say, pretty conservative investments. Some of them, like US stocks, it could be a bit more volatile, but it's not like, I don't know, a 3 times leveraged Russian fund, for example. So
what kind of idiot would buy something like that?
Who would do that? So one strategy, if you're a little bit nervous, could be to look at what's allowed under iDeCo and then sort of psychologically say, okay, I'm just going to stick to that in my NISA, and then I know I'm not taking on too much risk. Do you think that's a sensible way of doing it?
So each broker decides what's in their iDeCo account.
It's not the government that dictates that, it's each broker.
I mean, obviously there's rules about it, but all the brokers have different lists, and roughly half of them are garbage, I would say, like actively managed funds with high fees. So just because it's in iDeCo doesn't mean it's good, I don't think. Instead, I just encourage people to look for low fee, broadly diversified mutual funds, as long as they're not American, and just buy those.
As long as they're not American. Oh,
yeah,
because of
the Americans can't buy
and...
mutual funds in Japan, basically.
Right. Oh, as long as the person is not American, not the funds.
Oh, yes. American funds are very popular and they're fine.
right, yes.
Yes.
If you're a US citizen, you've got different set of restrictions.
Awesome. So yeah, NISA, do NISA. It's great. It's a great way to learn about investing if you're not investing yet. Yeah, very easy to open, very easy to use, no fees. You can use tiny amounts of money. It's great.
Yeah,
right. Let's answer some questions.
When I set up the Tsumitate back in July, the top of the checkbox or whatever it was, the list of how much you want to invest was 100 yen a month. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's the minimum, and then you can do any increments of 1 yen beyond that, because mutual funds can be chopped up as much as you like. So cool. All right, we got 2 questions, I think. Okay, I've got a big crypto question. So do you want to read that out for our audience, Daniel?
Yes. Thank you, Robert. So when do you think NISA will be open to cryptocurrency, or is that never going to happen? If that's the case, what avenue do you recommend to diversify into something like Bitcoin?
Okay, so the only way to buy cryptocurrency in NISA in the future possible would be if Japan authorizes cryptocurrency ETFs, which they haven't yet. So currently it's not possible to buy crypto ETFs in Japan, so you couldn't buy them in NISA. Now, if they allow that, then possibly you could buy it in the growth portion of NISA, and that would be an easy and tax-efficient way to own cryptocurrency. Because right now, cryptocurrency is taxed as income if you make a profit on cryptocurrency, like foreign exchange, like Forex. But ideally, people would probably prefer if it were taxed as capital gains, like stocks and so on, at 20%, a flat 20% rate, rather than a rate that goes up. So lots of people are hoping that will happen. They're waiting for that to happen. If that happens, then it makes it easier to make ETFs, I think. So it could happen. You know, the government, I think, is talking about it and thinking about it. And Japan's pretty positive towards crypto, I think. So the exchanges here are fairly well regulated, I think, and kind of tolerated. So if you want to buy Bitcoin right now, you'd have to just buy it from an exchange like Bitflyer or Binance. Is that in Japan? I'm not sure. I've seen Bitflyer. So I've used Bitflyer a little bit myself. I know that's fine, but
yeah, SBI has set up a cryptocurrency branch called SBI VC, through which you can buy a variety of cryptocurrencies. It's not a huge amount, you know, I mean, like not a huge variety, but a decent list of the main ones. Regarding the ETF, so it's been approved in the US, and the US government, according to the markets, is that the new US government coming from January is more likely to be sort of a pro cryptocurrency. My personal opinion, this is my personal opinion speaking here, but we will have an approved ETF in Japan, I believe. Not next year, but maybe, you know, 2 or 3 years out, I would think. They're going to do the same as the US, but sort of let the US test the waters, so to speak, I think, and then adopt it a bit later on. That's what I think. And then I assume it will then be allowed inside of NISA. And maybe that'll be the same time where they stop taxing it as miscellaneous income and change it. Maybe they'll do it at the same time.
I think a lot of people are waiting for that to happen. So
yeah.
And later on in the show, we're going to talk about a different strategy that you might be able to use. So stay tuned if you want to hear about that.
One thing I have seen people do is to get, if they want to get exposed to cryptocurrency in the NISA, is to buy a stock of a company that has some kind of cryptocurrency arm or something. And I noticed SBI shares went up last week. Not massively, but I think it was a 5 or 10% jump or something, because they bought, was it DM or DMM or something? Yeah, one of the Bitcoin exchanges. I think they bought it to merge into SBI VC, and therefore SBI Holdings, I think it was, went up 5 or 10% because they've now got increased exposure to cryptocurrency. Disclaimer: I hold SBI holding
You're
stock.
just trying to pump up the stock, aren't you?
I'm not trying to. I don't think I have much effect, but yeah, I hold it. So take
Japan
that with
TV moving the market. Yeah,
take that with a grain of salt. But
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, 2 quick questions, and then we'll go on to the next topic, which is very relevant. All right, first question: when's the cutoff for this year's NISA limit? So quite soon. In order to put money into this year's NISA, your transactions have to go through before the end of the year. And so for mutual funds, that can take a few working days. And the end of the year is kind of the 26th, 27th. So I would want to be making any transactions that you want to go into this year's NISA like tomorrow. Otherwise, if you do it too late, they'll just go into next year's NISA instead. And you don't necessarily get to choose there. So just be aware. So if you want to do any NISA stuff, you have to do it, tomorrow or the next, certainly this week at the very latest.
Question from Brad.
Yeah, this is a great question.
Yes, if you have a limited amount to invest, so let's say it's under the limits of both iDeCo and NISA. If you have a limited amount to invest, is it better to invest in iDeCo or NISA?
It depends. So normally, if you have a limited amount to invest, you have less flexibility. So NISA allows you to get your money out if you need it. So often people who don't have much money to invest are worried about maybe needing the money in the future. And iDeCo, your money's locked away until you're 60. You can't touch it. So if that's a concern, NISA's better because you can get your money out in an emergency if you need it. If your income's high and you're paying a lot of income tax, then iDeCo is going to give you a much better return because you're saving on income tax. So if you're a low taxpayer, you're paying 10% tax or 20% tax, you're only getting a 20% return on your iDeCo contributions. But if you're a 55% taxpayer, you're getting a 55% return on your iDeCo contributions. It's huge. So that's another factor. Those are the 2 main ones. So do you want access to the money, in which case you should use NISA? Or do you want to reduce your income taxes, in which case you should use iDeCo? I think using both is a good strategy because then you've got both accounts open. You can learn how to use both accounts, particularly for iDeCo. So the way iDeCo is tax-free, if you take a lump sum, it uses the retirement bonus tax break. And you need to build that up over time. So every year you pay into iDeCo, you build up your tax-free allowance. So just paying the minimum into iDeCo is going to give you that, that build-up of tax-free allowance so that later, if you can put more money into it, you've got more of a tax break to use against any gains. So.
I might mention this before. My son is entering the employment market from April. Very excited.
He's a product. He's just a cog in the machine.
He'll be a cog in the machine. He's got his job lined up. It's a miracle. So let's say he's starting out on a beginner's salary. Let's say, and it's all new to him. So let's say he's got 5,000 yen a month. That's all he wants to put aside a month. Is that still enough that you would split it between NISA and iDeCo? Well,
you can't actually, because the minimum investment in iDeCo, the minimum contribution is 5,000 yen a month.
Okay. Let's say it's
so I would encourage him to invest 5,500 yen a month and put 5,000 into iDeCo and 500 into NISA and do it that way.
Okay.
Or as a cunning and manipulative parent, you could give him some money and say, I'll give you the money only if you put it into your iDeCo account and you spend your money on the NISA account, and then everyone's happy and you'll end up kind of rich by accident. So
right. I don't know. I'm just enjoying finishing university fees and stuff for him. So
you're just like, yep, not my problem anymore.
Yeah.
That works.
Any folks still on that journey? It feels good.
I just couldn't believe how much money we had. Once the last child finished uni, we were like, what's all this money that we have left over every month? It's crazy. So that really supercharged the retirement accounts. So you can look forward to that.
Oh, nice.
All right. Where are we going? Huge question.
Is iDeCo and NISA, along with Nenkin, that's the government Nenkin, enough to be able to retire comfortably in Japan, or would you need to invest elsewhere too? So basically, talking about three things. You put out the compulsory national pension, Nenkin, iDeCo, and NISA. Are those three enough?
It depends. How much money do you want to have in retirement? So realistically, if you were in your, let's say you're 30, right? So you're 30 years old, you have a normal job in Japan, you're getting Kosei Nenkin through your company. So your Nenkin is probably going to be enough to live a very frugal life if you have a home. If you own your home and you're getting Kosei Nenkin, you can probably afford to pay utilities and buy food.
Sorry, Kosei Nenkin, you mean the national compulsory?
The company version.
Company one. Oh, sorry, company version. Right.
So you're working for a company, you're paying into the pension system, they're paying into the pension system as well. That will not be any fun at all. You know, you probably won't starve, but you won't be able to like buy anything nice. Now, if you pay into iDeCo and you max out iDeCo, so we're going to talk about this later, but iDeCo is possibly getting better. Just as a comparison, my wife has been using iDeCo for a while, since before it was called iDeCo. And she has 20 million yen in there now. And by the time she gets to retirement age, could quite possibly double. So she'll have 40 million yen in her iDeCo account, just from paying in, the normal monthly allowance every month and getting average investment returns. So
but it's not like the US, I think, where you can cash out your 401k. She's got to leave that until she hits 60 years old. So you can't touch it.
Yep.
Unless a couple of exceptions.
Exactly. So iDeCo is that's a benefit. I think that's a feature, because you can't waste your money or take it out or do something. But so yeah, so you'll easily hit something like 40 or 50 million yen using iDeCo, right? If you start when you're 30. NISA, you can invest 18 million yen into NISA right now. And then once that's full, it can grow. So if you left it for 10, 20 years, it's going to double every 10 years, roughly, if we look at historical returns for the stock market. So that could end up being 70 million yen. That is easily enough to live on if you had Nenkin and you were able to max out NISA, not immediately, not even max it out in 5 years, just max it out eventually, and also max out iDeCo. So yeah, I think that would be quite nice, actually. It'd be quite a comfortable life. You wouldn't have too many financial worries, and it wouldn't be that difficult to do either. So yeah, I don't think you need to invest outside those accounts if you can max them out.
And with iDeCo, you don't have to take it all out in one go, do you? You can effectively have it monthly, so it feels like a salary.
So you can take a lump sum, but if your iDeCo balance is too big, taking a lump sum would mean you pay quite a lot of tax, so that you can take some of it as a lump sum and some of it as a pension, and the pension's taxed differently. So yeah, there's lots of ways to play with it. If you've got a really big iDeCo account, you probably want to talk to an accountant to figure out what the best solution is.
Good answer.
All right. Top tips for 2025. Use iDeCo and NISA. Nothing new here. Cool. This is good. So Jason asking about, do you need to have a tax accountant?
Shall I read that? Do you recommend having a tax accountant when you hold NISA and iDeCo to ensure all the correct contribution thresholds are met and deductions are maximized, or is lodging tax yourself simple enough?
So no, not in the slightest. There's no need whatsoever to have a tax accountant just for NISA and iDeCo. NISA is super simple. Your broker will tell you how much you can put in, and it counts down. So the more you put in, the lower the number you have left available to put in. There's no tax reporting at all for NISA. You just fill it up and then it's good. And then when you sell it, the government doesn't care. You get to keep all of it. iDeCo, similar. So you can, once you've signed up and you pay in, once a year, you'll get your little certificate of how much you've paid in. You can use that to do your taxes through your company if you do a company thing, or through the tax office if you do a tax return, and that's it. So yeah, absolutely no need whatsoever for any kind of accountant for these things.
With NISA, if you're doing the what's it called, the regular one, where you just buy the ETF or the shares directly, you know, whenever you feel like it, not the regular, not the Tsumitate one, but the buy the shares whenever you want style. You select, or at least in the case of the SBI account, you put in, I want to buy 100 shares of this ETF, this price, and then you select which version of your account you want to take it from, the Toku something, whatever it's called, or the NISA.
Tokute Koza, the tax deducting account.
Or the NISA, and you think, oh, I want the tax benefits. I'm going to select NISA, and then it won't let you do it if you don't have enough of the limit left. So you can't actually go over your limit that way.
Yeah. So yeah, no worries at all. Just for that, certainly not.
What was the next question? Yasir. Yasir would like you to do a detailed video about the DC pension.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the corporate ones, to be honest. I've never had one, and they're all slightly different. So it's going to depend which one your company is using. So the easiest way is just to ask the HR department about it. And if they don't know, then ask the company that provides the DC pension, and they'll certainly know. And that's the best way to get good information, I think.
Shall I do the next one? Hello, foregone conclusion. Nice to see you again. With the Bank of Japan looking to raise interest rates again by a fraction of a percentage, will the ramifications on the yen be the same as it was when they raised rates recently, do you think?
I have no idea what interest rates or exchange rates are going to do. I'm not going to make any predictions. It's kind of beyond my focus of control. So this stuff affects me, but I can't predict it. I don't have any special knowledge about it. And so I just don't think about it, basically. So I have a long-term plan that I'm doing, and I'm going to ignore this, basically. And I would recommend that most people do the same, because it's a lot of noise. You know, you could spend hours every week reading about, you know, what's the Bank of Japan going to do? And they're going to do it, whatever you read or don't read. So what's your take on this, Daniel?
I find it interesting. I do like sort of trying to keep up with it and what's happening and stuff. But like you, like even if I have some kind of prediction, I don't worry about it too much, because at the end of the day, it's out of your control. And I do think that the biggest influence is the stuff that we don't know about. So we know that the Bank of Japan is, or people expect the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates again. So the market's already priced that in. And so the effect that will have on the yen is already there, because everyone kind of assumes it's going to happen. So it's when they do it more than expected or less than expected, that's the kind of shock that is the unpredictable part, which obviously is unpredictable, so we can't predict it. My personal opinion is that what happens over in America might have a bigger impact than what the Bank of Japan does. Not just with interest rates, but with tariffs, possible tariffs, and how that's going to affect the whole, how everything like connects together. So yeah, I don't know, but I find it interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Question about life insurance. I'm not sure what the question is, Robert. I'm sorry. So you have money coming in via life insurance. That sounds good. Getting money. Have to give us a bit more details, I think, for that one.
Yeah, because there's the one that's kind of an investment style, and there's the one that's the pure insurance, only if something bad happens style.
Yeah, but to have money coming in from that, you'd have to die. So probably not the best. Yeah. Where are we? Nobuji. Hi, Nobuji. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so NISA is limited and iDeCo is limited, so that they don't only advantage very rich people. But I think normal people can get very comfortable with these schemes. So
with enough time.
You're not going to be like rich, but you're going to be like have a very nice life rich, assuming that you started off middle class. Okay. Aha. So Yama-chan, thank you.
Hi, Ben. I heard that when you have a NISA account, you need to notify your broker when you're leaving the Japan territory, but does it also apply if you just leave for a few weeks on holiday?
No. So this is basically if you leave Japan permanently, you are expected to close your bank accounts, to close your broker accounts. If you leave Japan temporarily on work, so say you go and work, your company asks you to go and work somewhere else for 3 years. In that case, a lot of the times you can keep the accounts open. You can keep the bank accounts, you can keep the broker accounts. Sometimes they'll freeze them, but you can keep the account. And then when you come back, you can start using it again. So that's kind of a case by case, depending on the policies of the bank or the broker. But going on holiday is not a problem. It's only if you leave Japan. So you stop living in Japan, you move abroad, you cancel your residence and stuff. But yeah, it's not a problem if you go on holiday for a bit.
Good.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun.
Read this. Okay,
Ooh.
TM. Hello, TM. My wife is interested in NISA, but would rather contribute to mine, TM's, rather than open her own. Would you advocate for this approach, or is one each more efficient? Good question.
This is a bad idea for a couple of reasons.
Which is a bad idea? One each.
Putting it in your spouse's account. Assuming you both have income, it's much better to have 2 NISA accounts because you've got twice as much contribution allowance. Also, Japan doesn't allow couples to jointly own money. So that's why there's no joint bank accounts in Japan. So if you give money to your spouse to put in their NISA, that would be seen as a gift. As long as it's under the 1 million yen, 1.1 million yen a year tax-free allowance, it's probably okay. You're probably not going to get audited. But yeah, why not have 2? You know, both of you can use your NISA accounts. Both of you can try and fill them, and then you have twice as much tax-free investments.
Maybe I should point out that you want to avoid any kind of nasty problems if the unthinkable happens and you don't stay together for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason Smith has a question again. Hello. Any advice for those of us who will have overseas superannuation we can access when we're 65 without being charged gift or donation tax or whatever tax it is for holding foreign assets? Wow.
Yeah, so superannuation, I'm guessing, is the Australian pension. This is similar to iDeCo, probably, in that, you know, you can pay in and cash out tax-free in some ways. Japan is probably not going to accept it as being tax-free. As long as you've been in Japan for long enough, more than 5 years, then they'll probably want to tax this as a capital gain when you cash it out. But I'm not an expert on Australian stuff, so you're definitely going to want to find someone who is. There's a few threads on the forum by Aussies, so if you want to jump on there, there's probably a few things about superannuation and how it's treated. That Reddit subreddit that we talked about before, the Japan Finance subreddit, that's pretty good for tax stuff, so I would have a look there. But yeah, there's not really any way to avoid Japanese taxes without avoiding Japanese taxes and running the risk of getting caught and, you know, having your permanent residence cancelled at this point, because they're getting quite strict now. So not paying taxes is a reason to, you know, cancel your permanent residence, cancel your visa, and so on. I think Japan's going to get stricter and stricter on this going forward.
Just to make absolutely clear, Ben says pay your taxes.
Yes. Tax fraud is not a recommended strategy here at Retire Japan.
Go Cal Bears. Oh, sorry. 96. My US CPA, certified public accountant, I think that is, informed me that NISA iDeCo are a bit of a gray zone regarding the US government. But I've seen Retire Japan advise that NISA iDeCo are not for US citizens. Can you please specify why?
Yep, be happy to. We have a US citizen info page on the Retire Japan site, and that has some links to sources and discussions and so on. So I think the best thing is probably to go there. and have a look at those sources, because obviously I'm not even American, let alone any kind of tax expert. However, NISA is not it's not a gray zone for Americans. NISA's fine. You can use a NISA account. The issue that Americans run into with NISA is that the US government doesn't accept it as a tax-free thing. So you have to pay American taxes on those investments. And also, almost all banks or brokers that have a NISA, offer NISA, are not registered with the US government. So they're not allowed to sell US stocks to US citizens. They can sell them to anyone else. They're not allowed to sell them to US citizens. And if US citizens buy Japanese ETFs or Japanese mutual funds, those are looked upon badly by the IRS. They're called PFICs, passive foreign investment corporations, I think. And they're taxed really punitively. So Americans probably don't want to own those because the tax reporting is a bit of a nightmare. So what that means is that you're left with the only things you can buy in NISA as an American safely are single Japanese companies. And even some of those are deemed to be PFICs. So for a lot of Americans, they just look at that and they go, okay, so it's not tax-free. I can't buy the normal kind of recommended investments, which are broad-based index funds. And I might get in trouble anyway. So for most people, it's just too much hassle. And they just go, okay, so I won't use NISA. I'll maybe get my spouse to use it, assuming that they're not American. And maybe I'll just invest in the US, or I'll use Interactive Brokers Japan. Now, iDeCo is a gray zone because I haven't seen any conclusive proof either way. It seems like it's something that hasn't quite been decided. So iDeCo might be okay, and it might not. So again, lots of Americans are like, it's kind of not worth it, maybe. So, but go to our information page, have a look at some of those sources, and then make up your own mind. Because I'm not a CPA or even particularly well versed in tax. Yeah. Okay.
MS again. Thinking about doing all my finances within the Rakuten ecosystem. Banking, securities, credit, even mobile. How worthwhile, risky is this move? Basically being all in one service provider.
Yeah. It's fine, I think. The benefit of doing that is that you're in the Rakuten point ecosystem, and you'll increase the number of points you get because they've got these multiplier things where the more services you use, the more points you get and stuff. So that's quite nice. You can use the credit card to buy mutual funds in NISA. That'll get you a few more points, not many. The risk, there's not a huge risk. I don't think Rakuten is going to fail. And even if it did, then the bank account would be covered by the government. So the government guarantees bank accounts up to 10 million yen each. The broker, all the investments are ring fenced. So they're not part of the company's assets. They're separate. So I don't think it's risky. Now, some people like to have, for example, their iDeCo with one broker and their NISA with a different broker, just in case. But that's fairly paranoid, and it's probably not necessary. So yeah, it's up to you. If you like Rakuten and it's convenient for you, then yeah, this is a good way to, get a few more points and maybe keep things simple.
We did a similar thing. I set up the NISA for my wife and my son, and I got SBI because that's what I use myself. And then all of us have basically got the same sort of interface when we log in. It's mostly me doing it, but there's no new system to learn. And I did think that, we're risking everything on SBI there. If they go bankrupt, then maybe we're in trouble. But I figure it's big enough that probably the government's going to be a safety net if that does happen.
Yeah, I mean, your investments should be safe because even if SBI went bankrupt, your investments would still be there. It might take a while to get them back.
Okay. So an acquiring
yeah,
company.
my wife has her iDeCo with SBI, and then everything else with Rakuten with us. So.
Right. Okay. We have more questions. Wow.
It's really active today. I like it.
Johan, Interactive Brokers has started providing NISA-like tax advantage accounts for France. Any news having NISA on IB Japan?
I would love that, because that would give us an English language platform with NISA. I haven't seen it yet. They don't even have Tokte, the tax reporting account yet. So not sure. Haven't heard. I'm not sure that I don't know if it's a priority for them, but it would be amazing if they did it. But I haven't heard anything yet.
Nice message from Nobuji-san again. Nobuji-san had an IRA and a 401k when he was in the US a long time ago. Yeah, IRA was the precursor, I think, wasn't it, to the 401k, if I remember correctly?
No, they're slightly different, and they both exist at the same time. So tax treatment's different.
Shows how much I know. That's why you're the expert and I'm not.
Hardly an expert. And I certainly don't want to wade into US tax stuff.
Right. Over on Facebook, Dixon says, don't you think iDeCo is a preserve for permanent residents?
So the only conditions to... Oh, sorry. We keep hitting the button at the same time. So the only conditions to have an iDeCo account is that you need to live in Japan, and you need to be paying Nenkin. And that's it. So then after that, you can open an iDeCo account.
So you don't need to be a permanent resident on a permanent resident visa?
Not in the slightest, no. So the only reason it might be more suited for permanent residents is that you can't get the money until you're 60. So if you're only here for a few years, if you're planning to leave within 2, 3, 4 years, it might not be worth the hassle of setting up an iDeCo account, because you'd have to wait until you're 60 to get your money back. And, you'd have been outside Japan, and then having to do the paperwork in Japanese and find your login details and all that stuff might be a bit of trouble. But other than that, there's no reason not to do iDeCo.
Good question. And Yamachan again, among SMBC credit cards, I'll click it. Oh, no, you got it. Among SMBC credit cards benefits, there is a 2% bonus if you invest through SBI with your SMBC card. But this 2% bonus is still not active on my page, even though I invested through them. Any idea why?
I'm not sure. I haven't used these myself. It's possible that you have to use a specific credit card and not just SMBC. That's certainly been the case in the past, where each broker had very specific credit cards that you could use to get benefits and points and things, and other cards wouldn't qualify. But I think the easiest thing is to ask the credit card company and see what they say.
It could be a time thing. I've noticed JAL Miles, if I go and buy something through the JAL Miles system, sometimes it'll be 2 or 3 months later when they actually credit it to my account.
Yeah, it can take a long time for stuff to show up in your account.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe the last one for now. Kai says, can dual citizen Japanese/American invest in NISA?
Sadly, and this comes up a lot with children. So often people assume that because their children are Japanese, that the restrictions that apply to Americans might not affect them because they're Japanese. But the issue is the American bit. So if you're Japanese American, you're an American, and all the things that apply to Americans apply to you. So all the issues exist. So unfortunately, same problems. So you can use NISA. It's just might not be worth the trouble, basically. Now, there is a faint glimmer of hope on the horizon, in that the incoming Trump administration has been talking about how non-resident Americans are taxed and how they might reform that. So it's possible that some of these issues will go away at some point, but hasn't been announced. Even if it had been announced, I wouldn't be too sure about it until it actually happened. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe Elon Musk will get rid of the paperwork,
Yeah. We've had 2 very good timing questions from SMC, which we're actually going to cover in our little news section coming up. So SMC, you got your finger on the pulse there. They ask about the Potential advantages of the possible changes in the tax threshold, there's income tax thresholds for dependents, and also the new monthly thresholds for iDeCo, both of which have been in the news. Have they? Who knows? Because we haven't covered it yet, but that is coming up. I sound like a TV
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna stop answering questions now. We're gonna go on to the next.
We will come
because otherwise we'll be here all night. So, okay. What's our next segment then, Daniel?
Well, I think next it's time for a shameful investment story.
You're having far too much fun with that. Yes, so I have a shameful investment story. It's actually it's a few months ago this year, on Twitter of all places. I saw a few things about this company called MetaPlanet. And MetaPlanet is basically I don't even know what they did originally. So it's this small company in Japan that has jumped on the crypto train, and they have bought lots of Bitcoin. And so they've changed their small company from whatever boring thing they were doing before, and now they're like a crypto holding company. So they're like a Bitcoin substitute. So because they own Bitcoin, if Bitcoin goes up, then presumably they're more valuable. The stock price will go up. So it's a way for Japanese investors to invest in Bitcoin, kind of, and pay capital gains on their capital gains tax on their gains, and maybe even do it in a NISA account and get all those advantages that way.
I did hear about it because it jumped up, didn't it? Yes. You bought some.
So I bought some.
Did it. Whoa.
I bought some, and I bought them at 1,800 yen. And I didn't buy a lot. I bought like 400 shares or something, and then the price went down, and I was like, God damn it! Once again, I made a really stupid kind of investment decision based on like FOMO and it seeming like an interesting idea. Now, the only good thing is that I didn't buy very much. So yeah, I'm not impressed with myself because it wasn't a good reason to buy something. I certainly didn't understand what I was buying. But it's actually worked out okay so far. So the share price now, I think you probably know, Daniel. Have you looked it up?
At it now. Yes.
Yeah. So I bought it at 1,800. It's almost 4,000 now. I sold half of it this week, so I've kind of got my money back. I've still got a little bit on it. So if it keeps going up, I'll make a bit more money. So it worked out well, but it shouldn't have, because it was just luck. So it's like in poker, when you make the wrong decision and you win anyway through blind luck, or you make the right decision and you lose because you were unlucky. It's still the wrong decision, right? So I think this is a kind of I'm not proud of having done this stupid little thing with a tiny amount of money, but it's certainly the kind of thing that you want to use a tiny amount of money for, I think.
Right.
Like if I'd put half our assets into this and it had tanked, then yeah, that would have been more fitting, perhaps.
I see it went up 20% since Friday. Wow.
I mean, it's tracking Bitcoin, so Bitcoin's stratospheric at the moment. So
yeah,
if Bitcoin crashes, which it's supposed to do at the end of the halving cycle or whatever is happening with Bitcoin, then this will also tank, because this has basically no merit other than being associated with Bitcoin, I think. So
yeah, I did. So I saw this and I saw this company gone up, and then what did they do? And they pivoted. Oh, that's interesting. I looked at it and I was trying to work out my usual, PR ratio and dividend and stuff.
Doesn't apply.
Yeah, maybe not for me. Yeah. Having said that, foregone conclusion earlier asked about top tips for 2025, and okay, this is a tip, probably not what to do, but I do think there is some merit in having a little bit of money that you're comfortable losing, just to do something fun with, if you're that kind of personality. Me, I am, and so I can't help it. I just want a little bit, this thing that just might take off. And it usually doesn't for me. I don't have much luck, but it just might. And that sort of fulfills my, I don't know what it is, that desire for, I don't know, feeling like a superstar or something.
Well, it's a little, it's very similar to gambling, isn't it? So it's
Right.
trying to win and either winning or not. So
yeah. So maybe the top tip is, if you want to do that, just make sure you restrict it to a tiny bit and keep it separate from the
and money you can lose. So
yeah. Wow. So I thought you were going to say that you've lost a bunch, but you've actually still got them then.
So I've got 290 shares left. I don't know why I've got 90 shares. I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So
okay.
Yeah, but I've got my money back, so it's all profit now.
Okay, but it's still not the way you wanted it to invest.
Yeah, it was a bad decision that turned out okay because of blind luck. So
right. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I hope you feel cleansed now. Feel better. Professional.
Because actually, when I suggested doing this, it was underwater, so it's just timing.
Right.
When I put that in the show notes, it was actually less than I'd paid for it. So I was like, oh my God, I did this stupid thing and my money's gone. And now it's up again, and next week it'll be down again. And yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I've been here before. Like, I bought Chinese internet stocks for no reason and ended up making money on them. But it was a very stressful few weeks watching it constantly, and being like, oh, should I buy more? Should I sell it? What do I do? I don't know what's happening. What if it crashes and I'll feel terrible? Like, it's really stressful, this. So
yeah, I've had that. Not
just be aware.
Well. Yeah. Not worth it.
It might pay for Christmas, though.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Good one. Yeah. Right. So we do have the news that we mentioned earlier, and yeah, this is where we answer SMC's question. Should we start off with the main topic that you're very excited about?
I'm so excited about this.
I'll just get the Japanese link for the chat.
On December 10th, it was announced that the government is considering raising the iDeCo contribution limits, which is huge. And they proposed raising them by 7,000 yen, which is, it's not bad. So for people who are paying into a DC scheme that currently have a combined allowance of 55,000 yen, that would go up to 62,000 yen. For people who are paying Kokumin Nenkin, they're currently 68,000. That would go up to 75,000 yen a month. That's pretty cool. But nestled in the middle of this announcement was the idea that they're going to match the DC plus iDeCo 62,000 yen a month contribution for people that don't have a DC scheme. So they're going to go from the current 23,000 yen a month they can put in up to 62,000 yen a month. And that's all. It reduces your taxable income. It's pre-tax income. So this is huge. This is a huge tax break. Assuming that you invest and that you're happy investing in iDeCo, this is an enormous tax break if it goes through. So it hasn't gone through the diet yet, but the fact that they've announced it, it seems like it's going to go through the diet. So
yeah.
So yeah, potentially a huge tax break for anyone that kind of works for a company that doesn't have a DC scheme.
What about if you do have a DC scheme in your company? You can do this as well, can't you? Up to that.
So the combined limit goes up by 7,000 yen, which is nice, but it's not quite as groundbreaking.
Yeah. So that answers Johan's question there. Yes, if you've already got a DC, if that's already maxing this limit, you can't do anything. But if it's not, you can then do your own personal iDeCo up to that limit.
Yeah.
As I understand it.
And this whole 1.3 million barrier thing that they're talking about fixing, the solution is to raise the basic deduction for everyone. So this is another tax break. So combined, that's a really substantial tax break for like the middle class, I think, assuming that the middle class understands iDeCo and uses it. So yeah, this is great. This is so good going forward, I think.
Is that kind of all part of the same government discussion? I guess they're all doing this.
It must be, yeah. Cost of living, you know, retirement crisis, you know, people finding it tough. So yeah, all these tax breaks are all synergizing.
Right. So when I first heard about this 1.03 million thing, I thought it was only relevant for people who've got a university student aged between 19 and 22, which is quite specific. But it sounds like it's not. Well, that was the initial problem, but to solve it, they're going to just raise the floor, the threshold for everybody.
That's the proposal, yeah. Wow. So everyone's kind of basic deduction is going to go up.
And if that's approved, which I think it probably will be, when will it go into effect? I guess, is it too late for next year?
It might be from April.
Oh, okay. So it's not, we don't know yet.
I'm not sure. Yeah. The iDeCo one hasn't even been approved yet. So
okay, right. But
pretty exciting. So within a year or two, these could come in, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. Very good. There's your good news, everybody. So let's just jump ahead to another positive finance story from the government, actually, shall we?
Okay.
The free money one. So according to Japan Today, I've seen it other places as well, actually, the government is considering 30,000 yen cash handouts to stimulate Japan's economy. However, it's not for everybody. It's just for people on low income. I think people on assistance, isn't it?
Normally, when they've done this, it's for people who don't pay tax. So they don't earn enough to pay income tax.
Okay, yeah. So that is you. You could be getting 30,000 yen cash handout.
Okay. I don't think many of our audience are in that, but yeah, possibly. And it's nice. I do support that kind of thing because the the lowest paid in society are really struggling, I think, especially like single parent families and things. So the more assistance they get, the better, I think.
Yeah. Right. What other news do we have then? Okay. This is not really finance related, but it's Japan. It's interesting. Japan reaches its lowest ever ranking on a survey called Education First. Their 2024 English Proficiency Index. There's a global survey out of 100 and something. Or what was it? 117 or something countries. I think Japan came 94th, or roughly that kind of level. Not very good. It was 87 last year, and it dropped even more since then. Just below Myanmar at 93.
I think there's some really big issues with how they do these surveys.
Oh, okay. Because you're in the biggest
one. The biggest one is what they're comparing. So they're comparing people in Myanmar who are rich and motivated enough to take English tests with people in Japan who, you know, university students have to take English tests and they don't care. So those are the populations they're comparing. I don't think it's a fair comparison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, you compare. Yeah, they're always like, yeah, you know, like North Korea is better at English. Well, yeah, the elite people in North Korea are better than, you know, 17-year-old dropout students in Japan, but that's kind of obvious. So, because they're just looking at test results, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's completely unfair, basically, because people here do English as a hobby. It's very low stakes. It doesn't transform your future to have a good test result in English, and you know, which is very different from people in Myanmar, where, you know, if you get an excellent English test result in Myanmar, then maybe it opens up a career opportunity or something. So,
oh, okay, right, yeah.
I think I'm just I've seen these headlines. We've had these headlines the whole time I've been in Japan, and yeah, they're just kind of slightly sensational.
Oh, okay.
I think that, especially the English language websites in Japan love this. So,
yes, yes, yeah. Okay, then let's move on.
I poo-poo the survey. I do not approve of the survey and these headlines.
Okay. Understood. Right, let's move on before he gets too angry. So, you put out a page on Retire Japan about the new health card system coming in, where the individual health insurance, we mentioned this briefly earlier, individual health insurance cards are going away. It's all going to be merged into the My Number thing. And you talked about the benefits and the drawbacks. Do you want to sort of talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, so basically after December 2nd, no new health cards will be issued in Japan.
So it's already started that cutoff, hasn't it?
Any existing cards will be valid until the end of the duration printed on them. So I have a city. I haven't Kokumin Kenko Hoken, so I have a city. It's issued by the city. I have a card. I think it's valid until March or something. So after that, my only option is to use my number card, assuming that I've registered it as a health insurance card. You have to do that. That's a step. You can go online. There's a website. And if I refuse to, or if I don't apply for a My Number card, then I'll get a letter. So, I can use my letter to prove my insurance thing. But I'm guessing clinics and pharmacies are not going to like using the little paper letter. It might be annoying. They might ask for ID. I don't know how that's going to work. At the end of the day, I have registered my number card as a health card, because back in the day, they were bribing you to do that. One of the stimuli where you got 20,000 yen or something was dependent on doing that. So I did that in the middle of the pandemic sometime. I think most people did, because that was, you get more money. So. And I think it's getting smoother to use the My Number cards at hospitals. Like, they've got the machines now. The machines are like pretty smooth. It's a smooth process. The benefits of it is that supposedly your kind of drug, your medicine information is going to be on there. Your medical records will be on there or linked to it. Because a big problem in Japan is that all the hospitals don't talk to each other. They don't have any kind of record system that they can access. So if you have an X-ray at one hospital and then you go to another hospital the next day, they want to do another X-ray, right? Instead of accessing the scans from the previous day. So ideally, hopefully, eventually, we'll end up with a system where you can do that. You have an MRI at one place, and then you go to a new place, and they just pull up your MRI data and look at it, rather than making you do it again and pay for it again and get radiated again and waste loads of time and resources, right? Because the medical system is under some strain now. So we don't want to be doing unnecessary procedures all day long.
Yeah, true. So I'm on the more paranoid end of the spectrum, and it scares me having, first of all the blunders I've been making doesn't fill me with confidence, but having all this data concentrated in one place. So I don't necessarily think, they want to survey everybody and control everybody. Possibly not yet. Maybe if the secret police government comes in at some point in the future, I don't know. But just human nature, people leave USB sticks in the back of taxis, which has happened more than once. It's so easy for data to be lost by accident, or to be stolen by somebody inside the country or outside the country. And no matter how much they say it's secure, having sort of been that side of the industry a bit, there's never anything that's perfectly secure.
You're a black hat hacker or a red hat hacker?
No, definitely not a black hat hacker. No, but I find it interesting. I find reading about that stuff fascinating, and it just scares me. So I'm holding out for as long as I can, basically.
Okay. So do you have a My Number card?
No.
Ooh,
they sent me they send you the things.
They send me things through the post, isn't it?
Yes, they send you that thing. That is the notification card.
So you've got
this will be your My Number
thing, yeah.
So I have the number itself, which I have to write on the tax return at the end of the year.
Everyone's got a number. I mean,
right.
Regardless of what you do, it was assigned to you. So it's just how you use it. So if you don't have a card, you'd have to print out a Juminhyo for a lot of processes.
A couple of things have to,
You can use your Tsuchi card, but as soon as your address changes or something, it becomes invalid because they're not updating them anymore.
Exactly.
And, you can't use the Konbini to print things out, and Yeah, I used to be very anti my number, and now I've kind of like, you know, I've just accepted that it's here. I think the pandemic is what tipped it over, because before the pandemic, very few people had them, and a lot of people were like, "Why would I get that?" And then the government was like, "Hey, 20,000 yen," everyone got the cards, and now there's a critical mass, so they could do something like get rid of health cards, and enough people have my number cards that it works.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like, it was 15% adoption or something before the pandemic. So
it also makes me a bit angry that they said, I think, that it was going to be optional, and then they sort of now, technically it is optional, but there's a really lot of hoops you've got to jump through to the point that it's pretty impractical, or it will be soon. So yeah, their version of optional is not the same as my version of optional.
Well, you can use your piece of paper and you.
yeah.
It's when they replace driving licenses, which is next, and iDeCo cards. That's when it gets a lot harder to avoid, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of data being or being cautious about who you give your data to, kind of related, people may have seen in the news, the boss of Nomura Shoken, had to, I think he did the bow on TV like you're supposed to. He's taken a short-term pay cut, and a few other top people have as well. Why? Because one of their employees, or former employee who has now been arrested, was charged with stealing money from some of his clients and then attempting to murder them by setting their house on fire. I'm pretty sure this is not standard practice at Nomura, so this is just one thing that came up in the news. But this stunned me. I mean, I think this is from when, you get, we've had it here actually, these representatives of the stock brokers will come around to your house, introduce them, give you a Meishi, and I'm sure some people then open bank accounts, and then instead of trading online, they'll come around and visit and suggest what stocks you should buy and blah, blah, blah. And for some reason, this employee decided to steal money from one client. And
I think he'd lost his job already at that point.
Oh, he had.
So okay, he wasn't working for Nomura anymore, but he had his client list and data. Right. So he thought, oh, I can go and rob these people because I know they've got cash.
Right. So the fire was to cover it up, maybe?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is another reason why you should go with an online broker, because they've got a much wider range of products and low fees, and they don't come round to your house and set it on fire.
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law used to have a broker from Mizuho, who would come round every so often and sell her absolute rubbish, like Turkish lira bonds and all sorts of nonsense. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of banks because they're not actually on your side. They're trying to get rid of stuff that they need to sell. So yeah, be very wary of talking to like financial advisors that work for companies that are trying to sell you things.
Yeah. But anyway, this made me think, going back to our data discussion, it's like, you might trust Nomura Shoken or whoever, but do you necessarily trust every employee working there and every employee that might leave? And so this comes up when SBI now tries to encourage me to link my T-Point or V-Point card, and then other places, link your D-Pointer card. And I don't think we know what's really happening with our data in the background, but when you're doing some kind of linking, there is data sharing going on. And so how much of my data is going to these people that I now don't necessarily have a direct account with? And then what happens if those people have a very grumpy day, or they lose their job and they want to get revenge somehow? So, well, yeah, I'm going to limit the exposure account.
The really dangerous, all these, these stories about dark part-time work, all the Yami Baito stuff.
Yeah.
Where these guys, these criminal gangs in Thailand were like recruiting young people in Japan and manipulating them into going around to people's houses and robbing them. And they were basing this off lists. So they've got lists of people who have money or live alone, and they're targeting them specifically for that. So yeah, you really don't want to be on one of those lists. Right? Because you never know when someone's going to send around a bunch of delinquent teenagers to steal your stuff.
Yeah. That Yami Baito, that reminds me actually. I heard in the hairdressers the other day, the kanji of the year was announced. Do you know what this was?
Again. So drum roll. The kanji of the year is
Kin. Or
again.
Kane, however you want to pronounce it.
Again. they might as well just not bother. They just don't want to update. It's the 5th time.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird. Yeah.
So over it. Like, they don't understand the assignment. The assignment is to come up with a kanji that's going to, like, you know, be interesting and exciting and people are going to talk about, but they just bring out kin again.
Yeah.
And in 2028, it's going to be kin.
We can take bets. Yeah, the reason I heard on the news, they were saying partly it's for good reasons, like the Olympic medal haul and Otani getting the 50-50 and lots of accolades. So that's kind of like gold. And then on the flip side, the increased cost of living for people and this Yami Baito kind of trend that has been.
I thought it was the political scandals.
Oh,
so all the slush fund scandals. So not so much the Yami Baito stuff, but all those basically the thing that took down the LDP.
Right.
All those party contribution slush fund things.
Maybe the news channel I wasn't perfectly neutral. I was watching. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Maybe it'll be something different.
Like kin again.
Right. What else do we have? Oh, so this is kind of this is the last thing in our news section. It's not necessarily news, but it kind of we're coming up to the end of the end of the NISA and stuff. Yeah, it's the time when you start thinking about got to start getting taxes ready for March if you have to file them yourself. And so I've got some questions about tax before it gets to the end of the for example, Furusato Noze deadline at the end of December. I'm starting thinking about the limits and stuff, and I got questions. So, obviously, you go to the RetireJapan forums; they're a good place to go. But what if you want to go directly to the source? Go to the Japanese tax office, and I thought I would give this a try. Now, I've actually went with a question about limits on something else last year, and I just went into the tax office. It wasn't tax time, so it wasn't busy. And they were very happy to see me. They brought someone over to sit at a little desk with me and just answer some questions. Really helpful. I was very impressed. I was going to go back again, but now they've made it so it's appointment only. And so, but they have, either make an appointment or call this national tax hotline number. So I thought, I'll give it a test. I'll try that and see what it's like. Go to the website and they have 3 choices. You go to your local tax office, or you phone this national helpline, or you use our Zeikin, Kokuzei Sodan robot chat thing on the webpage. And so I tried all 3. So I've been in person, very helpful. You have to physically go there though, so it's a bit of a hassle. And now in our town, at least, it's by reservation only, but it's still free, and they're very happy to help you. The next thing I tried was asking the online chat bot thing. I thought it would be like ChatGPT, but unfortunately, it's not quite as clever as that. It tries to understand your question. In this case, I wanted to ask the income sort of exemption limits that you have with Furusato Noze. Is that separate to any charitable contribution, MPO kind of donations that you make, or is it all included in the same limit? And it didn't get my question. Maybe I didn't ask it well. It didn't accept English, actually. I had to do it in Japanese. And then it said, do you want to know about these things? And it gave me 3 or 4 topics from its Q&A section, which were not quite what I wanted. They were sort of simplified a bit. And so,
here's a link to a PDF that doesn't answer your question.
Yeah, not exactly super user-friendly. So that second option, it was super quick. It gave me an answer straight away, but it didn't really help me. It's like, try reading this stuff that might be relevant. And then the third thing I did was actually call the number. And, I can't remember if it's a paid number or not now. But I didn't have to wait online. It's got the, press 1 if you want income tax, press 2 if you want something else, tax, corporate tax or whatever. But yeah, I got through very quickly. And oh yes, you do have to pay. I'm just checking here. I spoke to a lady who was an income tax professional, and I asked her my question, and she said, oh yes, it's all included in the same kind of umbrella. The same limit applies to a combination of your furusato no donations, and your charitable donations. Exactly what I wanted to know. There's my answer. Okay, so I asked her, how does that affect my juminzei, my local tax? Oh, I don't know. You're going to have to speak to a local tax expert because I'm the income tax expert. So I got an answer pretty quickly. I didn't have to leave the house. And I know it's the right answer because it's from the lady at the government, but it's very specific. And if you've got other questions, you're going to have to call the number again. So there you go. 3 ways to get direct help from the government about your taxes. And they've all got their sort of pros and cons. And I will put a link to that page, actually, which shows you the number and stuff to call here.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I find the tax office very helpful in Japan.
I think that would be my preferred one. Yeah, yeah. And in that case as well, if you have any paperwork as well, you can actually take it and physically say, okay, this is what I got. And
please help me process it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned when we were chatting earlier, don't go in March. They might not be as free and helpful as other times of the year.
Although they have outside Zeirishi, I think, that they bring in March. So a lot of the people doing the tax stuff, they're not like full-time staff members. They're just there temporarily.
Oh, okay. Oh, didn't know that.
But yeah, you'll be there for a while, probably.
Yeah. Right. Speaking of being a while, well, we've gone an hour and a half, blimey. Right, last time.
Do some questions and then.
Oh, good idea. Yeah, yeah.
Do the last 3 sections.
Yep.
What we got?
Right, we're just going to have a look. What do we have earlier? So SMC, I think we talked about your
yes,
changes and threshold changes.
Thanks for the questions, though.
We have a good question from Kai. I'll put it up. Right. So hypothetically, if somebody accidentally opened a junior NISA and invested for their child who has dual citizenship, Japanese and American passports, how much of a mess would that person be in?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, you can because all the issues are on the American side. So I think US-Japan tax reporting is not integrated as much as other countries are. So, and of course it's the child's issue. So if they do a tax return, they should probably mention that they have mutual funds, if they have mutual funds. It depends what's in the NISA, to be honest, because if it's if you've got Japanese stocks in there, it's likely to be no issue. But I think probably, and this isn't advice, you could probably just, sell this stuff and neglect to report it to the IRS, and I doubt anything would happen. But that's not tax advice.
Yeah, I would ask an accountant. We don't, most years I can do it myself, but if something tricky has come up, I'll it's about Ichiman, or it used to be just over Ichiman yen for a couple of hours with a tax accountant, which is much cheaper than I expected it to be. Super, super helpful. And yeah, I could ask. Sorry? No, you wouldn't for this? No? Okay. Well, anyway, I would ask her side questions confidentially, and she's very practical and helpful. No
the issue here is that you have someone who understands US tax law and someone who understands Japan. Okay. And then the fees multiply once you have these different skill sets. So,
okay.
And plus, as far as I know, I can't find anyone who can give me a straight answer on this stuff either, including professionals. So, yeah, I think for this kind of really low stakes thing, like a junior NISA for a child, yeah, I would maybe jump on that subreddit because they're good on tax stuff, the Japan Finance subreddit, and ask there anonymously, see what they say. But I don't think it's a huge deal, but yeah, the paperwork would be nasty if you've got mutual funds in there, if you did the paperwork.
Hypothetically.
And maybe, the new Trump administration will get rid of all this stuff anyway. And then you can be like, la, la, la. No tax reporting requirement now. So,
another tax question. JP Phil is asking, how does one, let's say this is hypothetical, fix a previous year's gift tax that was missed? So I assume So it is the case where somebody might have paid a gift to their spouse or somebody in their family, and it's gone over that sort of tax-free limit, and they realize it was, let's say, last year or something. What would happen?
So the person receiving the gift is supposed to do a gift tax return, assuming that the total amount they received during the year was over 1.1 million, and that wasn't money for household expenses. So anything for household expenses doesn't count. So if you're, if you're spending it on food or rent or utilities or clothes for your family and stuff, that really doesn't count. The only way the tax office is going to notice is if they audit you. I haven't heard of anyone being audited. I would just be careful going forward.
And I think maybe you mentioned,
unless it's hundreds of millions of yen that you gave to your spouse and they put it in Switzerland, like, then you might have an issue. But
I think you mentioned before the household expenses is really that there's no sort of definition of it. It can be whatever you say it is, unless they say, are you sure 100 million yen monthly is household expenses?
Yeah, it's when you get audited and they say, we don't think these are household expenses, and you say, I do think they're household expenses, and they take you to court, and then it's whatever the court decides.
Oh, okay, right.
So yeah, there's no like specific guidelines, I don't think. So it was whatever would be reasonably interpreted by a court ultimately. So
right. We had a good comment by RetireJapan. That's a good handle. Investing in cryptocurrency is all good until you realize all 700 plus of your transactions are recorded in software that does not support Japan's cost basis calculation method. Yes, I have been here. Yeah, bit of a nightmare. I stopped. So I've just frozen my cryptocurrency basically because of this. I didn't realize
trading coins is it's a transaction.
It was towards the end of the year, and it's like, wait a minute, all this sort of balancing that I've been doing, being very sort of financially sensible, every little balance, every transaction is now like a taxable event. Oh, you're kidding me. A nightmare. And yeah, there are these crypto specific software or online services, and they don't seem to be able to cope with Japan's tax system. And even if they do, there's invariably some coin or something that's not in the system, and then you've got to try and work out how to do it. Yeah, this person makes a very good point. It can be a nightmare.
Yeah, I've got a tiny amount of Bitcoin, but I've only ever bought it, so I'm not certainly not trading it. I'm going to wait until they make it capital gains taxable.
Yep, same here. Yeah. MS has a good question. Do you ever feel that people ask you questions like you're a magic 8-ball?
It depends. I need to get a magic 8-ball that just comes up with "it depends" every single time, or I'm not a tax expert.
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Or I don't want to comment on US stuff.
Yeah, mind you, I don't know about you, but it's great seeing so many people asking questions about a variety of topics, and listening to us for so long. Really, really
loving the stream recently. It's been really cool. So
thank you, everybody.
Having said that, we are in the last 18 minutes of our show. So
right.
Burn through the rest of it.
What should we do? Okay. So last time you talked about a frivolous purchase. Can I talk about one quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so my purchase, I'll start with. Oh no, not yet. I haven't got one for this.
Oh, that's for later. I see. You're going to do the wah wah wah.
Oh, well, I don't see this as a. Yeah, I see.
Okay,
I'm happy with the outcome.
You're happy with your frivolous purchase. Come on, bring it on. Yeah. We'll judge you.
So I'll start at the end. Okay, and I bought this. Okay. There we go. It's a woodblock print, but from the Shin Hanga movement, the new woodblock movement from the 20th century, kind of a resurgence. This is actually by an artist called Yoshida Toshi. If anyone knows about this stuff, they're thinking, oh, Yoshida, recognize that name. His father, Yoshida Hiroshi, was a very, very well-respected Shin Hanga artist, together with Kawase Hasui. The two of them were kind of like really elite. And his son took over, so it's not one of like the top super valuable ones, but anyway, I really like it. I love this sort of the subtle tones of it.
It's very nice.
Thank you. I got it because we went to an art auction, our very first art auction. I've always wanted to go see what it's like. And they had some
obviously the day job pays better than this gig.
Well, they had some low estimate ones. This is a Mainichi art auction in Odaiba, and I expected sort of like some old kind of rooms and all very fancy, but no, it's in a regular sort of office block. You go up to the 4th floor or whatever. We got the catalog in advance. You pay maybe like 20,000-30,000 yen a year or something to join, and they send you the catalog every time. Or you can do it for free and just buy the catalog on a one-off basis. But that's about 3,000 yen. Or even better, you wait until somebody else sells it on Mercari and buy it 800 yen, postage included. So that's what we did. Got here in time. And they've got low estimates on some of these pictures, and they're really nice. So it was a Friday. They had the viewing in the morning and then the auction in the afternoon. So I took the day off. In the morning, you go to the viewing, and there's not many people there, and everything is on the wall. Really nice, sort of quiet environment, and there's no rush, there's no pressure. A couple of staff around to answer questions. It's a free art museum, basically. So there's an advanced money-saving tip for you. You don't even have to register to go to the viewing, I don't think. We just kind of walked in, and they said hello, and yeah, have a look, ask us if you got any questions. So that was a really good thing, and some beautiful pictures there. The museum itself, the auction itself, that's when we actually, registered and got the paddle with the number on. And
you had one of those things.
Yeah.
You're really careful not to raise it.
I was nervous. Yes. It's number 22.
Scratching your head with it and like,
right.
Oh, the gentleman with the red hat for 20 million.
Yes. There is a thing. It was number 22. Well, that's our lucky number. And so, like, this is fate. We are destined to come home with a treasure.
Frivolous purchase.
And then
the art auction.
Yeah, but it turns out the estimates were so low. Clearly, they enjoy saying afterwards, "Oh, we sold everything above estimate," because things just went crazy straight away. So it wasn't long before we thought, "Okay, we're here as observers," and the sort of like the characteristics of the different people were interesting. Some people were really wondering what to do and then raising it. And then there was one guy who was just had his arm up and he just lifted the paddle up and down like a switch, basically. I've got one.
I'm having this for however much it goes for.
Basically, yeah. And we're up to Isen-man or something. Like, what? yeah, it was incredible.
Different world.
And they had people on the telephones. Yeah. They had people on the telephones by the side, phone bids. The one that we were interested in one particular, it was the character calligraphy, which is the character of our son. And I thought it'd be really nice. And the estimate was, I think, 20 or 30,000. So, okay, that we can do that. But no, it went up and sold for 60,000. And when we're there thinking, 60,000, not sure about that, we didn't feel out of place. I've got to say, they made us feel very, very welcome. But yeah, I think there's a different kind of customer that goes to those real life auctions. But it was still a really interesting experience. And if anyone was thinking of going, then yeah, go along. Nothing to lose. And as I say, they made us feel very welcome.
Sounds quite fun.
You got to see the art for free. So anyway,
frivolous purchase was a catalogue off Mercari.
Almost. So a bit disappointed with the result of that. But then we went to Jimbocho, where they've got really nice art galleries that specialize in woodblock prints. I like going there and having a look around. And then I saw this really nice one for 20,000 yen. Actually, this picture here. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I'll get that. It's not super famous, not an investment piece, but I really like it. That'd be nice on the wall. Go to the counter, and he says, "Oh, yes, nice one." Yeah. He says, "Actually, we've got this same print, but the one you've got here is from after the artist's lifetime. We've got one during his lifetime signed by the artist for a little bit extra if you're interested." Like,
a little bit.
Yeah, of course I'm interested. Yeah. How much extra? He says, "Oh, that's 50,000. And by this time, my wallet is out. My brain is already in, I want this picture mode. It's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll get that one. It's got the artist's signature on. And so for 50,000 yen, I got this print that you see here with, there you go. You can see it in pencil there.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then afterwards, maybe a few days later, I was thinking, wow, that upsell was really uncanny. I paid more than double what I originally wanted to pay. And on the wall, obviously, it's the same print. Yeah, I'm still happy, I think, with my purchase. But I was a bit worried about how little I thought about spending more than double the amount I was originally going to spend.
You got judo thrown.
Something happened
on the upsell there. Definitely used your momentum against you.
But I'm still happy. So
that's great.
maybe,
yeah. I would say that's borderline frivolous. I don't know. I don't know if the audience is judging you harshly enough yet.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try harder next year.
We're going to need some more frivolous purchases. Okay. I might have one next time, actually.
oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my story. Right. So everybody, you have had a sort of bonus money tip about how to go and see art for free.
Yeah, that's quite good, actually, if I lived anywhere near Odaiba.
Yeah. But I've got another quick money tip. All right. So this one is moving away from art, and it's hotels. I think I've spoken about hotels a bit before, but I noticed a couple of things which I really wanted to mention. We were thinking about, over the holidays, a little stay away, and I was looking at the Marriott website, and I was looking at it in English, I think. Yeah, okay, I mean, it's not the cheapest hotel, but we're Marriott members, and I didn't book it, but I found it was the Marriott Sakura Tower in Tokyo, pretty posh. And, okay, possible, we'll think about it. And then I came back later on, and it showed the page in Japanese. I think I changed the setting or something like that. And the price was different. Like, oh, what? In that time, it's gone up, 20,000 yen or something. Is equivalent to about 20% or so. Like, what? Is it? And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm in Japanese now. I was in English earlier. So I go and switch it back to English, and the original price comes up in English. In other words, the price with the language set to English was cheaper, notably cheaper, than when the language is set to Japanese. And then I kept on a different room, a different night, and yet the same thing again. And now I can't guarantee this happens with all Marriotts or any time of year. Maybe it was just a fluke, but a couple of
it wasn't a different plan or something.
No, they were both. So they have several prices listed, like the member basic rate, the non-member basic rate, and then like the I can't remember what it was now.
Cancelable rates, right?
Yeah. But each one of them was sort of like maybe it wasn't as much as 20%, but it was at least 10 to 15% jump. Each one of those ranks was a jump compared to the same rank with the other language. I was really surprised.
Crazy. So, I'm tempted to go and change the language all the time now and see if Spanish is easier, or it's cheaper with German or something.
So through my work, actually, there have been cases in the past where e-commerce sites have adjusted the prices when they detect you're using a Mac, because they assume you've got more disposable income. That might have stopped now. Yeah. But anyway, this is I generally saw this.
Also, if you're signed in versus not being signed in, often you'll get different prices.
Oh, right.
If you're a member or something, and they'll be higher because they assume you're. Or if you've looked earlier and you come back, especially on comparison websites, like flight comparison websites and stuff.
Right.
Actually, so you should come back anonymously. Just to
I had that with Etsy, buying a Christmas present for somebody in the UK, and I put it in the basket and then got called away to do something. Came back later on, and in that time, maybe an hour or so, I got an email saying, "Oh, you forgot something in your basket. Here's a 10% voucher, to encourage you to go and check out." Basically, whether that works with other sites, I don't know. But yeah, it's only with Etsy. Well, maybe individual stores have their own rules, but leave it in a basket for an hour unless it doesn't sell out.
E-commerce solutions have that option, so it's an easy thing in the settings to have like forgotten basket reminders and stuff.
Yeah, I was really, really pleased. Anyway, so the second half of my hotel money tip, we are off to Hawaii, and we've got hotel booked. We're splashing out, and we're staying at the Prince Waikiki. Now, the Prince Waikiki is affiliated with the Prince Hotels in Japan. It's all part of Seibu Group, and they also have hotels in, I think, London, Singapore, maybe other places in the US. They have a few dotted around. Anyway, nearly booked it. Oh, first of all, I signed up with their newsletter, the Hawaii one, and they give me every now and then like this, special offer, you know, use this link to sign up. And sure enough, it is cheaper than just going to the site directly. I almost booked that, but then I'm a member of the Cebu group. Again, it's one of those free things you sign up for, the Cebu Prince Hotels. And I thought, oh, maybe if I use that, I can get points. So I go to the Cebu Japanese website and log in as a member. Sure enough, you can get points, but it's 30% off if you're a member. So I get the price for the Hawaii Prince Hotel cheaper if I go through the Japanese Cebu Prince website and get 30% off. You don't end up getting 30% off because the rates and everything ends up about, I think, 10, 15%. But still, if you've got a chain that has hotels overseas, just like the Japanese English thing, try both. Try directly with the foreign site and try directly with the Japanese site, and one will be cheaper than the other, probably.
I just wish things were simple, you know, like all this, like it's a checklist of 4 things to yeah. And they basically do it because they know that most people don't care enough to do this, and the people that do care really care, so it kind of gives them something to do.
Yeah.
So cynical.
Anyway, there you go. Top tips if you're booking a hotel, especially.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, actually, the language thing is really interesting. I'm going to try that because I use Marriott quite a lot. So
yeah.
We stayed in the JW Marriott in Nara, which is new. It's like 2 years old or something. Really nice. Incredibly expensive. So if we hadn't had points, I wouldn't have done it. But I had points, and the wife was coming with me, so it's very nice.
Yeah.
Right. The final section before we get to the remaining questions. So, all right, quick forum update. So the Retire Japan forum is pretty active. It's a very nice place. I'm really proud of how positive and nice it is generally. You can read it for free. You don't need to make an account to read it. It's open. If you want to post, you need to come and make an account. But yeah, it's pretty easy to do. Recommend it. So here are some threads we've had recently. So the most important one is the one about the iDeCo changes. That's how I found out. Someone posted because they'd seen a newspaper article, and it just opened up the whole present of wonderfulness that these iDeCo proposals are. There's a thread about purchasing Japanese property from abroad, which apparently involves notaries and documents and things that I didn't know about, but very interesting if you wanted to buy Japanese real estate from overseas. There's a thread with Japan US tax accountant recommendations if anyone needs one of those. There's a thread about looking for a Japanese credit card with cashback. So I'm a fan of hotel points. I like the Marriott points and air miles. But if you like cash better, perhaps a cashback card would be better. And there's a few options in Japan. There's one about buying crypto with Monex points, which, you know, if you want to dip your toes into the Bitcoin pond, you can do it with points through Monex. Lots of threads about the UK state pension. So the UK state pension, you can pay in on a voluntary basis. There's an amnesty until the end of March next year. So if you're not doing it already, please check it out, because it's the best investment I know of. If you're a UK person, if you have a national insurance number, you might be able to do this, and it's a really good deal. There's a thread about switching investments from taxable to NISA, which is what I've been doing this year. So I've been selling my taxable stuff and buying it in NISA. It's not possible to just move it. You do have to sell if you want to do that. But there's a thread about that. Thread about how to send money to Interactive Brokers US. Apparently it's quite difficult and expensive to do that from Japan, but there's a thread to help you. And one about tax loss harvesting. So basically selling things to balance out your profits and losses and then buying them again. And Japan's quite lenient about that, apparently, like many tax things. It's not as strict as some countries are. So yeah, lots of stuff on the forum. Go and check it out. And yeah, let's get through the rest of these questions, and then we'll say goodnight to our loyal audience who are still with us. It's amazing. Thank you if you're still listening.
Okay, so we had Johan, and they said, I have an Interactive Brokers Japan account and sometimes buy stocks in it. Do I need to declare them if I don't sell them?
No. So owning investments is not a taxable event. Only receiving dividends or selling the investments for a profit. If you sell investments for a loss, I don't think you have to declare that, unless you wanted to balance out some gains. So if you lose money on one investment and gain money on another investment, you can balance them out. But yeah, just owning the stocks is not a taxable event.
Okay, good. Next, we have TM again. Quick question. Their wife is putting into an individual pension, but wants to switch to iDeCo. Do you think it's worth paying the cancellation fees to do so? Are individual pensions and iDeCo even comparable?
So iDeCo, you can only pay in going forwards. You can't back pay. You can't put a lump sum into iDeCo. So if your wife's interested in iDeCo, I would just open an iDeCo account and start paying in from now. Whether she wants to cancel her pension or not, that's going to depend. So you want to look at the pension terms and conditions, see what it's like. Sometimes you're able to reduce the amount you pay in. So she might be able to pay in less into the pension, but keep it and put some of that money into iDeCo instead. But it's going to depend on your situation and what you're trying to do with the pension and iDeCo. But
so they
generally,
really separate things. It's not either or. It's just like they're completely
different.
Absolutely.
Generally speaking, over the long term, I think you're probably going to end up with more money if you use iDeCo than going through an insurance company where you're paying the insurance company to invest in very conservative things on your behalf and they're taking a cut. So yeah, generally I would recommend iDeCo over that, but it's going to depend. So, it depends.
Right. This might be the last one, actually. Arslan asks, how much should be the ideal FIRE number? I mean, how many multiples of the annual salary? Any rough estimations on your side? Maybe you start by reminding us what FIRE is, please.
What a question.
Yeah.
So FIRE. FIRE is financial independence, retire early. There was a real FIRE boom, but it seems to have died off now. So people are less excited about FIRE now. But basically, how much money do you need to stop working, retire, etc.? I think salary is a really ineffective way to think about it. It's much more useful to think about your spending. So how much are you spending now? How much do you want to spend in retirement? Sometimes that's going to be bigger than what you're spending now. Sometimes it's going to be less. It might be the same. That's a good starting point. And then generally, just as a rule of thumb, if you're investing in the stock market, we might use the 4% rule, which is a kind of very rough rule of thumb that says if you have 25 times the annual amount you want, so if you want 1 million yen in retirement, if you have 25 million yen, then you might be okay there. And that's a starting point. Most people I know who are FIRE or close to FIRE, they tend to overshoot that quite a lot. So whatever their 25 times desired spending is, they end up with quite a bit more, maybe 30 times or whatever. But at some point, you kind of have to start trying to live off your investments. And it's a big psychological switch. But I think in the accumulation phase, an initial target is probably 25 times whatever you want to spend. So, and then see how it goes, because these things are it's never like, here's my plan, I finished my plan, that's it. Your plan changes over time, but making a plan is very useful. So it's good to make an initial plan and then see how things go going forward. So yeah, whatever you want to spend. So if you want 4 million yen, if you want to be able to spend 4 million yen every single year, then maybe aim to get 100 million yen and so on. So 5 million yen would be 125 million yen, etc., etc. And that's a good starting point, I think.
One thing like this that I found really useful was when I read the book Your Money or Your Life, and they suggested thinking of a chart. And first of all, you put a line where your spending is. And as you said, it might go up or down after you've finished full-time employment, but sort of try to estimate your sort of monthly or annual spending, and then your monthly or annual income, and try to make it like that's your passive income, or the money that you would get if you slowly sold investments. And then where is that line compared to the sort of spending line that you've drawn? And you want to build up that passive income line as much as you can, so that it eventually hits that spending line, and that's the point where you're financially free.
And you can live off your investment income.
Yeah.
But it's a process. So you learn by making a plan and trying to do the plan, and then changing the plan slightly, and so on. So, all right, I think we're done. So, Merry
Christmas for sticking with us.
So, yeah. So next week, I'm going to be cooking Christmas dinner on the 24th. So we have Christmas dinner on the Christmas Eve, kind of Spanish style. I find it works so much better, because you do all the cooking on the 24th, you eat in the evening on the 24th. The next day you can do Christmassy things and eat leftovers and just relax. So much less stressful than trying to cook it on Christmas morning or something. So we got the turkey. We've got a turkey coming. We've got. I'm going to try and find Brussels sprouts, because my family, their favorite thing about Christmas dinner is Brussels sprouts.
No way. Only family in the world.
No, you just got to cook them right.
Oh, okay.
So like if you boil Brussels sprouts, they're horrible. But the way to cook them properly is you get them, you wash them, you put them on a baking tray, you cover them in olive oil, salt, and black pepper, and you cook them in the oven until they're blackened.
Oh,
it's the best thing ever. I mean, I kind of agree, actually. It is the best thing about Christmas dinner. It's the first dish that goes. Yeah, try it. It's amazing. If you can find Brussels sprouts in Japan, which you have to shop around and go to different supermarkets.
Yeah, I looked at our local one. They don't have it. Yeah.
We found one locally that reliably has them, so I'm going to go and buy all of them next week.
Are you feeling Christmassy and generous enough to do one last quick question?
Oh, go on then. It's the holiday season. So.
So the last one from Yevgenia. Do you still have to pay taxes after you retire at 60 years or older?
You might have to. It depends on your income. So basically, for pensioners, there isn't a public pension tax break. So if you're only receiving public pensions, I think the first 100 million is tax-free or something. You also get the basic deduction. So yeah, if you're just getting a public pension, you probably don't have to pay tax. But if you have more sources of income that are taxable, then yes, you might have to pay taxes. And you will have to pay your health insurance and your kaigo hoken and possibly your local taxes and so on. So, but if you're low income, probably not. If you're high income, then yes, you'll have some taxes to pay. But you should be okay doing that because you've got enough money. And if you've been investing, then you should be paying taxes, and you should be happy because it means that you're fairly well off. So.
Good one to finish off.
Yay! Right, Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a good holiday and a good New Year. We're back on January 20th for RetireJapan TV, episode 4.
8 p.m. Monday, I think it is, isn't it?
And next year is the year of the snake, which is my year. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good one.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening. Have a good year. See you in January.
Yeah.